to the podium, and we will continue with the discussion. And if you have any questions, you can have the questions for all of us. Would you agree? Thank you. My speakers, which is Samantha, Irene, and Senator Gálvez, what's your name, sorry? Rosa. Thank you. Rosa, Irene, and Samantha. It's always like we are women talking about women, and it's not in this case the same circumstances, which I'm very pleased. So you guys, if you want to stop and ask anything, we're happy. How, this is a question, and I think that's a big question. Many people ask me how, because we know that we sometimes we're afraid of saying things because we don't know the topic, and it's very fair. If we don't know about inclusion and gender, it's fair. If you're a woman and don't know about gender, it's fair. But don't talk about gender if you don't know, or don't defend things that you don't know. Because first of all, the women agenda is very different than other agendas. And now, as a woman, how can supporting women leaders in male-dominated industries like energy promote economic growth and gender equality? That will be the question, and I will start with Rosa.
Thank you so much again for this very kind invitation. I see that there are some men in the room, so thank you so much for staying for this discussion. I'm going to talk more from my experience, my own experience. I can start by saying that when I told my father that I wanted to be an engineer, his answer was, "Are you crazy?" You know, he said that. And he said, "I'm not going to pay for these studies." But at the same time, I had a grandfather who was an architect, and my grandfather said to me, "You be what you want to be." And, you know, there are private universities, there are public universities, and so go to the public if your father doesn't want to pay for your studies. And so I did my studies in a public university. The first courses is 500 people in a big class of the common maths, and I was the only girl. And so the classes started at 8 o'clock, and I had to be at 6 o'clock just to not cause any problem with the big class, you know? And I adore maths. I adore physics, chemistry. I always liked numbers. My father was a professor in mathematics. My mother was an accountant. So how can I not like numbers? But it was difficult. It was not easy. And there has been lots of barriers, but also a lot of mentors. And I cannot say that it's just me who went and did all of that. No, I had mentors at every step of the way, friends that encouraged me, and I finished. And then, you know, continued. I went into science and research. And again, people said, you know, well, that is very difficult for a woman in Canada to do research in science and engineering. Again, it was the same thing, you know, the same, you cannot do that. But you just have to do it. And if you like the path, I think that's what is important, the path, not the goal. I never had a specific objective. So I don't think I need to tell you all the advantages of having more women in science or in politics. I think by now everybody agrees on that. But we have to talk about the barriers and the enablers. And I think the barriers, I would say, is also us. We put ourselves barriers by not having confidence in ourselves. Also, the barrier is that these fields have been in the hands of men for hundreds of years. So we are babies. We are babies, and we try to play with the same rules. And I say today to women and to my students, female students that finish PhD and went to work and they're working, I tell them this, is that try to change the game. Because as I was discussing this morning, the game is not working anymore. I said the trickle-down economy doesn't work. The free market doesn't exist. And we were talking about, oh, oil and gas is still profitable, said somebody in the previous. Yeah, but he forgot to say that this industry receives hundreds of billions per year. So how can they don't be profitable? I will be surprised if they won't be profitable. And I used to think that renewable energy was robust, was incredibly strong because it didn't need any subsidy to be in the place where it is. But maybe it's time to shift those subsidies that we give to the oil and gas to the renewable energy and give them that opportunity to show how they can do with the same type of assistance, And also this is, I know it's government decisions, but there should be a referendum. Because in Canada, if they put for referendum, should we keep giving in the hundreds of billions per year to the oil and gas? I am convinced that the population will say enough, give to somebody else, including our health system. So women, we have, I don't know, but when I talk to my female counterparts and peers, it seems that we have sort of the same type of priorities. We want to negotiate, we want to collaborate, and we want less competition. And as you mentioned, I don't want any gift, and I don't want any positive or what they call it, tokenism, or give me things for free. No, take me, try me, test me, put me my performance indicators, and then evaluate. I used to be the chair of the biggest department of civil engineering in whole Canada. And during my term, I hired 15 new professors, out of which 4 were girls, ladies. But it was under the same performance criteria, under the same that I was saying, we don't have enough ladies in our faculty. Let's put girls in our faculty. The last point I will make, and I will stop there, is the indigenous people. So, all the planetary crisis, the biodiversity, the pollution, the climate warming affects a lot more women and children than men. And it is very interesting to see some United Nations and World Bank statistics that says that when you help a woman coming out of poverty, you are in fact helping 5 people in average coming out of poverty. While if you help man, you are just helping 1 person. So give women opportunities and they will see it has to be by their own wish and desire. We cannot push them. It has to be by their own wish and desire. And I hope that women, once they are comfortable in their role, they not only change the rules, but they change the game. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I think we are doing it. I think you're changing the game big time. And a lot of women want to change the game big time. They don't know how to do it, but we need tools and windows that we can provide. And also financing, because we need money for all of this. Irene?
Yes, thank you very much to the dialogue to have me here. It's a pleasure to share with these amazing women in this panel. And I'm also going to share with you my experience and the experience in my country, Costa Rica. And I think that in some cases you need the mandatory tool to make the things happen. And in the case of Costa Rica, in 2010, the parliament approved a law that requires equity in all the boards related with the public sector. And that was a really important change because that was the beginning to open a window, a door for a lot of women in the public sector in important places. For example, the central bank. The central bank, now they have to have equity in their board. Also, the ARECEP is the authority that regulates all the public services in Costa Rica. Also, the Costa Rican Institute of Electricity, the biggest electric company in Central America, we have to have equity in the board. So this has been a really important change in our history to open and to bring opportunities. This was in 2010. I have another example in 2013. The Costa Rican Institute of Electricity started the construction of an hydro plant. Rivera is the biggest in the region also. And the company decided that they wanted to give more opportunity for women in the region of the plant. So they started to call women to work on the project. Like 300 women worked in some cases in the tunnel, in the dam, in different parts of the project. And it was really interesting. I was watching some interviews to try to prepare for this panel, and I was listening to these women. And it was really, really interesting to hear them. They were so afraid that they couldn't do it. But the company said, we are going to train you. We're going to show you how to do it. Trust in us. And a lot of women that used to be housewives or they used to clean houses for a living, they learned a different job. They had the opportunity and they really feel realized or they feel fulfilled because they knew that now they can do something different. And they can earn money doing something different, and they learn something valuable for them, and they can teach their children that they can do something different. And this was a great opportunity in the region and in this place for them. And now we replicate that in all the projects. So we are bringing more opportunities to women in all the development of the projects in the country. So I think those two experiences are really good for women in the country. And I think that the other thing that I wanted to share is that I really like when I hear some of my colleagues or some other women saying, I want to be in that board because I can do it, because I deserve to be there because of my knowledge, not because I want to feel a number or a statistic. It's because I deserve it. And I think that a lot of us are working in that direction.
Thank you, Irene. You gave very good examples of how to break paradigms and how to give new ideas. Quotas is a matter of pushing. They are not going to be there forever, but it's necessary. And also, be part of a board is not an aspirational thing. It's an aspirational, but it's not, because you need that experience in your professional career. And if we've seen that in your country, also in the States, there are some states like California that they also open up the thing with the boards, and it's been very successful. Because once that they were first, they applied first, they got very good board jobs, so it's good. So that's the good news about it, no? So part of that, what about you, Samantha? Give me some examples.
Okay, thank you so much. Is this working? Thank you so much. First, I'd like to thank the dialogue for having me here today and for having an open platform to have this important discussion on women's leadership in a field where women are underrepresented and often overlooked. I'm going to bring in a little bit of the global perspective coming from the World Bank and the energy sector management assistance program where I work at the bank. Essentially, we see the role of women and gender equality as imperative to meet our institutional objectives, which is reducing poverty, it's promoting shared prosperity, and helping countries meet their clean energy ambitions. So going back to some of the data points that you raised, Patricia, I have a few data points as well, which is along the lines of what you have put out, because ultimately, focusing on women is really about smart economics, right? And this is something that's driving our work at the World Bank. So according to our studies, promoting greater legal reforms around gender equality, providing access to economic opportunities, closing gaps, the gender gaps in male and female employment could raise global GDP by more than 20% and double the global growth rate over the next decade. That's a pretty impressive figure. Our data also shows that when companies include more women in their as part of their governance leadership, these companies do so much better than companies that do not have women in board of directors or in leadership. And it increases their productivity by more than 25%. And this pattern of positive impact isn't just for businesses, right? So we work with governments and institutions to support policies that essentially help facilitate women's access to economic opportunities in different country economies. And there's a World Economic Council in 2023 had essentially said that government policy needs to be better designed. There's a lot of room for improvement. They need to increase female labor force participation, facilitate better access to childcare services, technology access, financial inclusion, improved care systems. I mean, there's a lot of work that can be done. But this need and the positive trends that we've seen essentially is not reaping the results that we would like to see. And it's not just in the energy sector, it's also more broadly. Women represent 55% of the labor force compared to men who represent 75% of the labor force globally. In the energy sector, that number is much lower, as Patricia mentioned from Irene. We have data from Irene and IEA. These numbers is about 22%. And when it comes to women in leadership, and I was taking a look at the economy-wide versus the energy sector, it's low across the board. It's 17%. So it's a missed opportunity, essentially. When women are underrepresented, it's a missed opportunity. And this is why at the World Bank, we've really placed the jobs agenda as a priority for driving development and promoting shared prosperity. And at the World Bank and at the Energy Sector Management Assistance Program, which is housed at the bank, essentially our work on gender equality and women's economic empowerment is guided by the gender strategy 2024 to 2030. This was published last year, and it has three main pillars: ending gender-based violence and elevating human capital, also increasing women's access to economic opportunities. And the third pillar is basically engaging more women as leaders. And this third pillar is a really important one because it's the first time that we've really put women's leadership as a central and core pillar of our agenda. And just going back to some of the points that were raised, I mean, and we're going to talk a little bit more later on about some of the case studies we have at the bank that we've done. There are structural constraints that really prevent women's access to opportunities. And these structural constraints are oftentimes not necessarily going to be solved just by the energy sector, right? They're going to be solutions that will require engagement with other sectors, with ministries of labor, with ministries of education, with ministries of social development. And so, we're really trying to think also, like, where are the needs and the priorities for working collectively on this agenda, right? So it's not something that's, you know, addressing childcare issues and, you know, for women working in utilities is not necessarily just going to be something that you know, the Ministry of Electricity is going to come up with. It really needs to be thought of more broadly. And so we do have also examples around beyond the structural issues that go back to opportunities that were raised by the panel around mentorship and role models, and I can talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you very much. You raised something very important, like to reconsider where are the things that are important. It is important too. Because we've been following France, like talking about climate change and repeating the same dialogue or narrative. With feminism, it's the same. Some people consider it positive, others negative. It's an ideology, but there are certain concepts that also private companies need to take on board, no? As well as they have environmental responsibility, huge. Well, obviously the impact, what is the real impact that they are providing, like renewable energy projects that they have, social plans or impact plans that they really don't help. But they are in the numbers and they are okay for the due diligence. Jorge, hello, how are you, Jorge? Nice to have you here. And the question is for all the panelists, how can supporting women leaders in male-dominated industries like energy promote economic growth and gender equality? Can you share a bit of your thoughts?
Of course, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's a great responsibility to be part of this panel, no? Actually, I can share some of the lessons learned from our process from the policy side. We developed a energy transition agenda. It was an action plan from 2020 to 2030, aligned with the SDGs and our climate change commitments. But we had 7 or 8 strategies, functional operative strategies for this action plan. But we approved a transversal axis. No? We call it Women and Energy Nexus. It was our roadmap for the gender equity in the energy transition agenda. We ran a first diagnostic document, a diagnosis, to specify with data, to fill with data the existing gaps. No, it was not different from other countries or other regions, but we wanted to put our specific data or gaps on the gender issues in this energy sector, and we focus. Then we have this in a participative way. We have private sector representatives, public institutions, academia, etc. And then we had this opportunity to design this roadmap, and we focused on three main perspectives. One is the role of women as users of energy. No? The second is the role of women as part of the energy sector, not only on the professional or know-how roles, but also on the decision makers roles, on both in private and public sectors, and the importance of to guarantee the equity and the gender equity in the creation of jobs related to green jobs on the energy transition agenda. We have run some analysis on the plan that we developed. We expect to have more than 100,000 new jobs related to energy transition from now to 2050, and we have to guarantee that at least half of those jobs are for women. No, so we did this from the policy side. I don't want to overload with the specifics, but we tailored more than 20 specific lines for every one of these approaches that I mentioned. No? The women as users of energy, women are part of the energy sector, and women in poor communities and fighting energy poverty with this gender perspective, no? And I want to highlight that from the policy side. And the other one is the leading by example, no? We have to fulfill that. And in our energy secretary, we have 75% of the directive positions was held by women. And also my deputy secretary was a woman. And actually, when I got out of the Secretary of Energy to take on the Minister of Trade, she was the one. She was the first female Secretary of Energy of Panama. No, so we work on that. We have to walk the talk. No, not only the policy side, the regulation, etc. We work hard, but also there's a big impulse when you lead by example. No, there's a lot of things that happens when you do that. No, and complement the policy and the regulations with that kind of initiatives. I will lead it today, and then maybe I can complement later.
Thank you, Jorge. I think the name of our leadership program is with Walk the Talk as well. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your experience and for making the differentiation in between women in the workplace, the needs of women in at home, and women in other environments, because we all the diversity within women is very broad. Thank you very much, Irene. During your time leading IC group in Costa Rica, from your experience, what were the advanced and biggest challenges in terms of gender and employment that you oversaw, and what solutions were devised to overcome them?
Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for the question. Well, for those who don't know, ICE is the Costa Rican Institute of Electricity, is a state company and is in charge of the electricity and telecommunications of Costa Rica. And it has like 25,000 employees. When I was leading the company, we worked in a strategy for 5 years, and we were looking to have as the vertical or the main issues was sustainability, and also the principles for the OCDE, because at that time Costa Rica was trying to be part of this organization. And when we were looking at the SDG 5 gender, and we look at the numbers, we realize that we have a huge task to do, because we had, like, at that time, 75% of the employees were men and just 24 women. And the same happened with the chiefs or the directors, most of them were men. And when we tried to work on that, we found out two big challenges. The first one was related that most of the women, they didn't have the requirements to apply for a chief or a director. And why is that? And now I'm going to share with you my personal experience. I worked at the ICE when I just graduated from civil engineer, and I was at the planning, the electric planning office with 15 more co-workers, all of them men. And if you want to be a chief or a director, you have to be professional 1, then professional 2, 3, 4, 5 to be a director. Okay? And when I was at that office, 5 years later, all my co-workers, they were professional 3 or 4, and I was still a professional 1. So I went to my boss with a lot of courage, and I asked him, can you answer me why I'm still a professional 1 after 8 years being in this office, if I have done my work most of the times better than them, but I'm still a professional woman. And guess what was his answer? Number one, you're a woman. Number two, you're not married. You don't have children. You don't need the promotion. That was the answer 25 years ago. Okay? So when I was leading that company and I was looking for women to be directors, they didn't have the opportunity to escalate from professional 2 or 3 or 4. And the main problem is that in that institution is not an objective thing to promote people. It's subjective. So the boss decides who is going to be a professional 3 or 4. So the first thing I did is not more than that. We're going to regulate how are we going to promote people in the whole company. It has to be transparent and it has to be objective because of goals, because of improvements, innovations, ideas. So that was the challenge. And the other one is when I found out the few women with the requirements, and I asked them, go for this position, they were no thanks. So I went personally to each one and asked them, why are you not going to take this position? And guess what? The answer was, I know I can do it. I know I can do it. But it's going to have a lot of extra work for me. And I'm not going to have my partners at home help or support. I'm going to have extra work here and extra work at home. And the sacrifice will be very high. And I don't want to do it. It's really sad, but it's our culture. And we need to work very hard on that. Very, very hard.
Thank you, Irene. Yeah, we have a culture. Also, men have a culture and they have their own issues, but we don't overlook our issues. We like you guys as well. And it's an opportunity to talk about new masculinities because as women have issues of confidence, men have other issues that they have that you have to overperform, that you have to have, that you have to. Yeah. So we're not talking about how many have to the men have to have, but women have that kind of issues. And I would like to hear Samantha, if you can give us some case studies, Samantha, of the World Bank efforts in Latin America to train women for jobs in the energy sector and to reach these gaps, and also what worked well and what could be improved, and how can this success guide similar initiatives in the region and how we can replicate them.
So thank you so much for this question. So let me just take a step back and present a little bit more about our approach, especially in the energy sector, because we have gender targets, across all sectors, but, I'm focusing on energy. And at the World Bank, we do have, supported by the ESMAP program, we have regional gender and energy programs across all 6 regions, including in Latin America and Caribbean. And these gender and energy programs they're very much aligned with the sort of vision of driving women's economic empowerment, driving jobs, as well as supporting shared prosperity and reducing poverty. And how these programs are organized is that they balance knowledge exchanges, they balance capacity building internally within the bank as well as with counterparts. And they also have support to our operations, our investment operations in the portfolio. And emerging from the work that has taken place through the research, we also have now regional gender and energy networks across Africa, South Asia, Middle East and North Africa, Latin American, Caribbean, which I'll talk a little bit about here, and in ECA as well, in Europe and Central Asia. So these networks touch on a lot of the issues around confidence building and mentorship. But let me talk a little bit about the support to operations first, because I think this is an important. I mean, it's about really the tool that allows us to ensure that operations and our investments take into account the different needs and priorities of women. And this tool that we have is called essentially like the gender tag. And what it allows us to do is to monitor programs, projects that essentially take into account the issues, have activities that target women, that support them. So in the sector, it could be from the lens of vulnerabilities, which is addressing challenges related to lack of access because women are disproportionately affected, or it could also be linked to the opportunities end, which is also was raised, making sure women are able to participate across the value chain in the different technology pathways of clean tech, for example. And so here, this tool would also ensure that these projects have activities and that they also include metrics to measure progress made. And the challenge is that we found is that oftentimes the theories of change when it comes to taking into account all of these different considerations, be that in the energy sector or elsewhere, is the implementation of it is not so easy. Because capacities in many of the countries we work on is very limited. And so this is where the regional gender and energy networks come in, and they've been very helpful because they work also with the utilities, with government agencies to ensure that our counterparts are able to be equipped with the tools, with the resources to help them address the gender activities that have been identified in the projects. Now, in terms of, I know there have been a few projects in Latin America, one in St. Lucia, that has really supported women's employment in the sector through scholarships and apprenticeships. This was included as part of the project, and girls were able to, or women were able to essentially apply for these scholarships and apprenticeships, and then be employed in the utility. So this was something that was very successful. We also have a project, and I have a lot of paperwork. So we have a project in Mexico where it's they supported mentorship for young women in STEM, and this also was very successful. But again, there are always challenges to this, and these challenges stem from limited capacities in countries to be able to carry these out, as well as resource constraints around that, because oftentimes they tend to be, there's always resources that are needed to carry out these programs. And when they're not taken into account, you fall short of achieving the targets. I'll stop here.
And also how you communicate this sort of scholarships or not to the community. We finding out with our own network that this is a challenge. So that's why now we develop a platform, digital platform that I'm going to talk about later, but it's a way that how you can reach that many people. You're not going to reach 1,000 people in a WhatsApp chat. You need to have a tool. And how you achieve that? Because companies are not paying for marketing for that. You are going to pay for marketing. How are you going to reach that message into the schools or the uni schools? Because it's where the message needs to be done.
Can I just quickly say something? So here, this is why it's really important to work with universities. I mean, this is why you need that engagement, right? Like the utility itself is not going to be able to equip the women with the right skill sets without engagement with vocational, institutes or universities. I mean, you kind of need that that linkage, and then you also need the policies that help promote that linkage as well.
Yeah, we do through networks with universities because we started to save the world. I wanted to call each university for university, and it was very difficult. So now we have a few alliances with large like alliances in universities. For example, the UC California has a great one, and then we've been working with them. They send sometimes students to do work for free, or also they want to accommodate these students in the companies, but also companies want everything there, no? Like, can you bring me students? Yes, but you have to do your own also work. The network is there for you to use it and to improve it, but how are you gonna consult a list of schools, or how are you gonna consult a list of women? That's also very strange because they've been around like list of women everywhere. It's like, this is not like, we're not in sale. Well, this is a directory of women, good, but it's not a very good taste to be one of those lists like you can hire, pick and hire, no? We all should be there if you talk about equal opportunities. So thank you very much. And Senator Rosa, you wanted to talk about indigenous people, which I think is very important also to talk about rural women. Can you give us examples of why, and develop more the topic of why women in indigenous and these cultural environments have been more disproportionate impact, and why indigenous women impacted by industry, and how can the industry and governments integrate the well-being of indigenous women in energy policies? Also, how can the Canadian experience of reconciliation help Latin American countries in addressing these issues? Very difficult question.
Yes, yes, very difficult question with so many dimensions. I want to start with an example that I saw with my eyes in Canada. So we were doing the modernization of the Impact Assessment Act for energy projects, and there was a witness from Amnesty International that came to me and said, I would like to appear as a witness. And it was very controversial because Amnesty International had data showing that in a couple of provinces in Canada, where there is energy exploitation of petroleum, there is a flow of mass of male workers, and that they disrupt the community of the indigenous people, and especially the life of women. So there was a lot of alcoholism, domestic violence, unwanted children, denial of paternity, and even criminality, no? And so I didn't know about this. It really shocked me to learn about very strong things that as an engineer, as a scientist, I never saw this aspect. And now I'm a politician and I am chairing a commission, and I need to put that in there because there are impacts, and they were witness, and then they told their stories, and it was very, very revolting. So one thing is to have the courage to tell the things that are not going well. Second, to come and have also the courage to feel solidarity with these women. You know, I'm sure that if it was not me in chairing the committee, probably this witness wouldn't have been accepted. But you know, the point is a matter of transparency and a matter of solving the problems. I don't think the problems are solved when we just, put our head in the sand. But when we are brave enough to put it there, then the solutions are come. And the solutions come from the communities, the solutions come also from the promoters. So that's one point with respect to indigenous people. Another thing that I want to talk about is this when I said initially, when we force things, and I have seen in Latin America a lot of regulations to push the presence, for example, of women in politics in the parties, and in Canada, for example, to have more women in medical or to have more women in engineering. And the thing is that doesn't solve the problem if I just declare this. there has to be a monitoring and there has to be a continuation and there have to be corrections and adaptations in the way you go. Because, for example, in engineering, we give more scholarship for women. But then, if you look at the statistic, women drop at the second year in maths, in engineering, they drop. And then sometimes me, as somebody that is interested in this subject, will try to contact them and ask them, why are you leaving? You know? But there is no an official way of learning what were the reasons. So, well, yeah, one married, the other one too much mathematics, to the third one, fall in love or got moved. And so, but we have to find solutions for them. And for the indigenous women, it's exactly the same. So we offer them a scholarship to come and be nurses for example, in the mining, nurses in the medical centers. And they come and they get the training, but they know what's going on in the mine, so they don't want to go there. So they remain in the centers. Once they have their certificates, their diploma, they don't want to. And so the other thing is that most of the questions that I receive from girls that come for looking for mentorship, they all want to know the tricks to survive in a male field. They all want to know, okay, so what was the thing that you did? And I try to make the difference between the door that is open. Thank you so much for all the doors that you have explained. Yes, there are opportunities. But another thing is to cross the door and stay there until you feel comfortable. And to feel comfortable, as I was saying, you have to change the dynamics. Because if the dynamics remain, like when I arrived to Laval University, I was the first woman. And so they told me this. We need somebody in the kitchen, which means the lab. Okay, so that's what they expected to me to be. And I did that. I constructed a whole new lab with 5 years of effort. But then I said to my colleagues, the boss in this lab. You said I'm the kitchen, I'm the chef. So you want to use it? Put your line, make things, and we're going to organize it. And then I was feeling in comfort because I was in control of the things that I have developed, and nobody was coming and pushing me out after I developed this thing. So it is so important that you establish a respect relationship with your colleagues. And another trick that I told people, girls, is like to open this door and to stay there, you have to have conversations with your male peers. And as a Latin American person, I always have put a lot of efforts in learning what's going on in soccer. I like wine and I like politics. And these are the subjects that male like talking about, not so much in changing diapers. Thank you.
Senator, thank you. Are you going to start like, yes, I have a daughter. I have a daughter, I have a no? Thank you very much for this example. I think rural women, indigenous women need to be very looked after and admire. Jorge, the last participation is going to be you. If you want to just share with us your experience, you just talk about what you did as a national secretary. We want to know what is your diagnostic and how we can increase women participation in field roles like you work on, and what opportunities exist for it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the question, and it gives me the opportunity to highlight. I would like to bring here our flagship project from all our energy transition agenda and all our roadmap for the equity and on the gender approach. It's called Solar Champions now, and Solar Champions is a program, is a project, a pilot project, a quick win from our policy proposals that address one of the key things in our country. When you ask in Panama, how does poverty looks it will have the face of a young indigenous women. That's the face of poverty in Panama. And we wanted to start with that. No? In all these diagnoses that we have run, all these line of actions and pillars, etc., for us was a key driver to work with that. No? And we created this Solar Champions project that is with the support of a lot of stakeholders, one of them the IDB, who believed in this, and it has this program as a benchmark for other countries and regions. And it was a program of 3 months intensive program for indigenous women to become solar panel installators. No, and we brought them to a place, and they were there 3 months in day to night, night to day, and 24/7 for 3 months, and it's amazing. No, we have three years of this program, this pilot program, to validate some of the basics and the details, etc. But it was impressive. How could you see the impact of such a small opportunity, no, to improve the life of these persons? Because I can relate you the first day of the program. No, we had a little moment to share with them and explain them all the process, etc. And some of these women even didn't wanted to take a picture, no, with you. Let's take a picture and have this moment. You are starting a process, etc. And by the end of these 3 months, these same women that didn't want it, even a picture, we have a crew of we run a documentary with the support of IDB on this process, and we're the team with the cameras, etc. And the same women were telling the cameraman, the director of the documentary, you want me to go up the stairs to the ceiling? You want me to put my hat? It was incredible. In just 3 months, with a little support, how the life of these women were changed. I'm not talking only about the skills, no, the capacity building related to the skill as a solar installer. It was an empowerment process, no, of their lives, as leaders, of human beings, and was impressive. And this is our flagship program from all the things that we have done. And it was a great opportunity to put it into place, a specific, concrete way to work into the fight for energy poverty and the rural and communities approach. So I would think that I will get it and leave it there. It's incredible. This example of, with a little bit of support, how you can change a life.
Thank you, Jorge. Very inspiring. You will let us know what happened with these women in a few years and what happened with this capacity building if they continue with that in another projects. Thank you so much. This is our last second. Do you have any questions to this important and very... Hello, how are you?
Well, thank you. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Malagon from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. I am Jacqueline Malagon from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. I've been very impressed all day long, but I was with a special interest in this subject. I'm not a feminist. I work for the government. I've been minister and I've been a diplomat, and I'm surprised that none of you touch the subject of education. In Dominican Republic, we have 70% in all the universities with women. We have 19% of all the girls between 10 and 17 with adolescent pregnancies. The incests, I cannot tell you by percentage, because that's difficult, but we have it in the Ministry of Education. And I don't know if you know how much have grown the feminicidios, but men killing women, and killing the mother-in-law and the children. Well, it's like a carnival in Dominican Republic with a lot of pain. I have to tell you, it's in the newspapers. I'm not saying anything new. And what is worse is that embarrassed of pregnant Dominican women that go into alcoholism or toxic substances are having the syndrome of the fatal thing that has problem when the children are born. I'm surprised that you didn't take. I'm very pleased with what you said. I know that your subject, what it was, but touching the subject of education, because that is the only way that women are going to make it in a male-dominated world or countries. And next time take it into consideration.
Thank you very much. Yes, education is a great topic for all across all the sectors. Thank you for raising it. Do you have anything to?
Well, definitely is the key. Education is the key. And when I was talking about that, we need a cultural change in our Latin American countries. I'm talking about that. Education is the only way to change the culture, to modify what we are used to. So without that, we are not going anywhere. So definitely is the key.
Thank you. For sure, there'll be another forums also to talk about reproductive health and all the stuff that the feminists are looking after now. This in the agenda, no, or not only the financial inclusion, the labor exclusion, also the reproductive health rights that women have, because it's got to be well raised. Thank you very much. Thank you for all, and we think.
The problem is that we're going from bad to worse.
Hopefully not. Let's see the right side.
We are.
Thank you.